Welcome to CSEGuru. In this session, we will discuss an example to implement function. Already we have discussed what is function and what are all the three elements of user-defined functions. Now, we are going to discuss factorial using function concept. So here if you are considering, this is a program, normal program without using function. So here every code we have placed inside only in main function. Okay, so we have not used a function concept here. The same example we are going to implement using function. So here we have declared the variables n, I and initial product value is 1. Then enter the n value and store the value with the variable n. So this is the actual logic. For I value is equal to 1, this is the initial value, I less than or equal to n. So here the n value is nothing but up to which number we need to print the factorial value. So here I less than or equal to n, I plus plus, find the product. So product is equal to product into I. Then print n factorial is equal to that value. So this is the program completely we have implemented within the main function. Suppose now if we want to implement using function in the sense, first we need to remember there are three elements in user-defined function. One is the function prototype that should be placed in the global declaration section, otherwise called function declaration. And the function call we need to place within main function. And the user-defined function separately we can create. So the header file part as it is we can place. So that is hash include stdio.h. And this is a standard input output header file. Here we have used printf statement, scanf statement. Printf is the output statement and scanf is the input statement. So to use these kind of input output statements, we need to include the header file stdio.h. And next, immediately after the header file section, we need to declare the functions. Okay, we need to declare the global variables as well as the functions here. Now we are not going to use any global variables. I will explain the concept of global variable later. Okay, so now we will declare the user-defined function here. So the user-defined function we will name it fact. Okay, so the function declaration is void. Since the function is not going to return any data, we have used void fact as the function name, and within parentheses we need to declare the parameter what we are going to pass from the main function to the user defined function. So the parameter we are going to pass here is n. Next, this function declaration should end with a semicolon. Okay, next, main function, that is void main. And inside the main function, we can declare the code. Okay. So here we are going to accept the input within the main function, and the input value we are going to pass as a parameter to the user defined function. So we will accept the input in main function itself. So these three statements we will include here itself. That is int n, I and product value, initial value of the product. Then using the printf statement, enter n value. Next, using the scanf statement, accept the n value and store with the variable n here. Next, this logic part we are going to implement in user-defined function only. Okay, so here we have to implement a function call now. In function declaration, function call as well as the function definition. The function name should be same. It should be a unique function name. So here the function name is fact. Fact of, what is the parameter we are going to pass here? That is n. So here in function call, it is not required to add along with the data type. It is enough to specify the parameter itself. Okay. So here, when a function is called, immediately control will be transferred to the user-defined function. So here we will declare the user-defined function. We already know the function prototype and the function header of function definition both are same. Only difference here is we should not include semicolon in function header or function definition. Okay. So here, what is the function declaration we have used here? That is void fact of int n. Okay. We should not place semicolon here. So this is nothing but function header. In function body part, we will implement this logic since we will get this n value. Okay. And in the function body also, there are three parts. One is declaration part, next is execution part and return statement. So declaration part, if you are considering here if you are considering I and prod, these two are the variables we have used within user-defined function. And here, this represents the local declaration. So whatever the variables we wanted to use within the user-defined function, those variables we have to declare here. So here, int I, since I is the variable we have used within for loop, and product is the variable to store the result. Okay. So int I and product we have used here. So here we have done a local declaration. Then the logic is for I is equal to 1. The same logic we can implement here. I less than or equal to n, I plus plus. Okay. And here product star is equal to I. So this is the execution part. After executing, we need to print the value. Okay. We need to print the value. This print statement also we will include here itself. Printf %d factorial, that is n factorial is equal to the result. Okay. N comma product. And then finally the third part is return statement. If at all we are not returning anything to the main function also, simply we have to add this return statement. Okay. Here itself it will print the factorial value. It will be printed in the output screen. So now we are simply returning the main function. So here if you are considering n is the only variable we have used here in this local main function. Okay. We already know if you are declaring a variable here in the sense only the lifetime of the variable will be only within this main function only. It will not extend to the user-defined function. Okay. So only we have declared I variable and prod variable here. These two variables I and product is not required to declare here in main function since we have not used that variable inside main function. Only we have used the variable n. So this I variable we have to declare here as well as this prod variable we need to declare here and it should be initialized to 1. Okay. And the elements of user-defined function if we are considering, in global declaration section, we have declared this function declaration or function prototype. Other name is function prototype. So this function declaration will have three parts. One is the return statement, function name and the parameter. And it should end with a semicolon. Next is function call. So this function declaration should be declared in global declaration section. And this function call should be placed within main function. So here also the function name should be same. So here we have used fact and here also we need to use fact only. We should not change. And the variable or parameter we are passing here is n. And we already know here return data type is not required and here data type is not required. Okay. Only function name along with parameter is enough. Okay. Since the variable n already we have declared here in main function. So this is fact of n. This is a function call. When a user-defined function is called, immediately control will be transferred to that user-defined function. And this is that complete user-defined function. And this user-defined function consists of two parts. The first part is nothing but the function header. And this is function header. And this is nothing but function body. And this is the start of the user-defined function and this is the end of the user-defined function like the main function. Here, the main function, this curly brace represents, this open curly brace represents the start of the main function and the closed curly brace represents the end of the main function. Similarly, the user-defined function here, this open curly brace represents the start of the user-defined function and the function will end here. When the function completes its execution, that is, when a function is called in the sense, immediately control will be transferred to the user-defined function, and when the function completes its execution, immediately control will be transferred again to the function call. Okay? And this complete user-defined function, this is nothing but function definition. The function definition only consists of two parts. Okay, that is nothing but function header and function body. If you are considering the function header, everything is similar to function declaration. The only difference here is the semicolon. Here we should not place the semicolon, but here semicolon is must. And this function body consists of declaration, local declaration, and then these are all the execution part. Okay, and then return statement. Local declaration, execution, return statement. These are all the three parts of function body. These are all already we have discussed. How it is placed in this user-defined function, that we need to understand now. So, if you are considering here, the complete code we have placed only within the main function. But here, if you are considering, only the required thing we have placed in main function and the user-defined part completely we have placed separately. Like individual module we have placed here. So, how many times this function is required to execute, that many times we can able to call in main function wherever it is required. It requires only one statement, that is fact of n. Wherever after 100 lines also, if it is required, here we need to add fact of n. So here we have written the code only once, but any number of times we can able to call within main function. That is the advantage. So wherever we are calling, this one line statement will replace this complete code. But we have written only once. Even 10 times also, 100 times also, or 1000 times also, how many times we need to execute this user-defined function, that many times we can call within main function with only one statement, that is fact of n. This is the main advantage of user-defined function. So, in this session, we have discussed the three elements of user-defined function, how we have implemented using the factorial example. In the next session, we will discuss one more example and we will discuss these three elements, that is function declaration, function call and function definition. Again, to understand better. Thank you for watching this video.